Welcome back to Science in Sleeping. I'm so glad you're here again. It's late, the world is quiet, and you've made time to rest. Tonight, we're going to drift softly into one of nature's most whispered mysteries. Do plants have consciousness? As you settle into bed, maybe you can feel the coolness of your pillow, the gentle weight of the blanket resting over you, the quiet hum of your own breath. This is your space now, your little island of stillness in the middle of the night. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think. You don't even need to stay awake. Because everything we explore tonight will be here, softly waiting for you. Whether you drift off after a few minutes, or stay with me until the very end, tonight we'll wander together through the hidden forests of the mind of nature. We'll listen to the silent communication of trees, the gentle pulse of roots deep beneath the soil, and the subtle intelligence that flows through every leaf that reaches for the light. You might not think of plants as alive in the same way we are. They don't move quickly, they don't speak, they don't have eyes or ears, and yet science has begun to whisper something surprising, that plants sense, decide, and remember in their own ancient, quiet way. So as you breathe in deeply, let's allow your body to sink into the bed. Feel the softness beneath you, the rhythm of your breath slowing down, and the gentle awareness of the present moment expanding around you like a calm night sky. If you're watching this to fall asleep, you don't have to hold on to any of the facts. We'll explore. Your mind will take what it needs and let go of the rest. Think of this as a gentle walk through a moonlit garden where curiosity glows faintly like fireflies among the leaves. Before we begin our journey, I want to say thank you for choosing to be here, to rest, to learn, and to care for your mind. There's something beautiful about people like you, who look for calm and knowledge in the same breath. You're part of a quiet community of dreamers and thinkers, people all over the world, tuning in at this very moment, each lying in their own space, connected by curiosity and the simple act of slowing down. Maybe you're listening from a small apartment in the city, where the glow of the streetlights slips through your curtains. Or maybe from a quiet cabin, where the night is filled with the hum of crickets. Wherever you are, you're not alone. Right now, thousands of others are breathing in rhythm with you, drifting towards sleep. Together, if your thoughts are still racing, that's okay too. Let them float by like clouds in a midnight sky. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to fix or finish anything tonight. You've done enough. Now it's time to rest in a few moments. We'll begin our story. A story that stretches from ancient forests to modern laboratories, from the roots of philosophy to the branches of neuroscience. We'll explore what it means to think and whether thinking requires a brain at all. But before we start, take one last slow breath in and let it out gently. Feel the air move softly through you, like the wind passing through a field of grass. Now, let the day fade, let the light in your room dim, and let your imagination open, because tonight, we're not just studying plants, we're stepping quietly into their world, into the vast and wordless intelligence of life itself. So, get comfortable, let your eyelids grow heavy, and allow curiosity to be the last thing you feel before sleep. Welcome, once again, to Science in Sleeping. And our story tonight, do plants have consciousness? Let's begin. Have you ever wondered what's happening beneath your feet? Not just the soil and the roots, but the silent conversations that flow unseen below the ground. We walk across the earth every day, completely unaware of the living network beneath us. But if you could listen closely enough, you might hear a faint, whispering hum, the quiet language of plants, their way of sensing, responding, remembering, and perhaps even thinking. Picture yourself standing in a moonlit forest. The air is cool, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. You can feel the ground beneath you, soft and alive, tiny roots stretching in every direction, branching, twisting, weaving into each other like invisible threads. The night is still, but under the surface there's movement, slow, rhythmic, deliberate. The roots are busy, exchanging messages, a living network pulsing quietly beneath the sleeping earth. And above, the stars shimmer softly, watching over the quiet intelligence of nature. When scientists first placed sensors into the soil to study root systems, they discovered something astonishing. Plants weren't just growing randomly, they were communicating through fungal threads known as mycorrhizae. Roots could share nutrients, warnings, even signals of stress. Imagine an underground internet made of living threads, each tree connected to another, sending messages like data across a vast natural network. When one plant was attacked by insects, others nearby began to prepare their chemical defenses before the danger reached them. It was as though the forest itself had awareness, a collective intelligence hidden in the dark. Beneath our feet, this wasn't imagination. It was measurable, observable, real. Through tiny electrical pulses, chemical signals, and hormonal messages, plants seemed to be aware of changes around them. A light breeze, a shadow passing overhead, even the vibration of a caterpillar's jaws. Each of these sensations caused a cascade of reactions, as if the plant were feeling the world. But could a plant know it was feeling? That question opens a doorway between science and wonder. And it's the space we'll drift through tonight. Scientists often describe this root network as the wood wide web, a term that captures both its connectivity and its mystery. Each root tip behaves like a small neuron, sensing the environment, sending signals to other parts of the plant, and even responding to stimuli in patterns that resemble neural activity. When you zoom in far enough, the electrical flickers moving through a plant's cells look surprisingly like the ones that travel through the human brain. They move slower, far slower, but the patterns are there. Tiny pulses of awareness passing through the green veins of life. Did you know that some plants can remember experiences in laboratory experiments? Researchers trained a plant called Mimosa pudica, known for folding its leaves when touched to stop reacting after repeated harmless touches. The plant learned that the touch wasn't dangerous and stopped closing its leaves. Even days later, it remembered when tested again after rest. The plant still responded as though it had retained the memory, but with no brain, no neurons, no central control. So where was this memory stored? Perhaps in every cell, in the flow of ions and water, in the gentle shifting of its internal chemistry, like memory written in the quiet rhythm of sap. Think for a moment about how your own mind works. You sense the world through sight, sound, touch, but at night, in the dark, when you're still and quiet, your awareness spreads. You begin to feel more, think less. Plants live in that state constantly. They are beings of pure presence, absorbing sunlight, tasting minerals, sensing water molecules drifting through the soil. They respond, adapt, communicate, without ever leaving the now. Perhaps that's why their intelligence feels so alien. It's slow, quiet, unhurried, the opposite of our restless human minds. There's something comforting in that idea, isn't there? That beneath the rush of our cities and the hum of our thoughts, the earth itself is thinking too, not in words or ideas, but in signals, light and flow. When we sit under a tree or walk through a forest, we're surrounded by ancient conversations, a million messages moving silently around us, and even though we can't hear them, our bodies, on some deep level, understand, because we too are made from that same living material, carbon, water, and light. The same atoms that make up your thoughts once pulsed through the sap of ancient trees. Life, it seems, is a dialogue that never ends. Maybe that's what consciousness really is, not something trapped inside a skull, but a pattern of awareness shared across all living things. We feel it in our breath, the forest feels it in the sway of its branches, and together we form one great mind, thinking in 1,000 different languages of life. So, as you lie here now, eyes growing heavier, imagine the roots beneath the surface, sending signals slowly, communicating through the soil like gentle whispers. Are you there? One tree asks, I am, another answers, and the earth listens. Every rustle of leaves, every drop of dew, is part of that vast, quiet conversation. Maybe that's why so many people find comfort in the sound of rain, or the rhythm of wind in the trees. Because somewhere deep within us, we recognize that language, the slow, timeless voice of nature, speaking in frequencies older than words. And as you breathe in and out, you too become part of that language. Each breath you take was once in a leaf, and each breath a leaf takes comes from you. This is the quiet exchange, the endless circle between plants and people, an invisible rhythm that keeps the world alive, shared consciousness, through air, light, and time. Now, as your thoughts begin to fade, like the last glow of twilight, let's drift deeper into this mystery. In the next part of our journey, we'll travel upward from the roots in the soil to the leaves that reach for the stars. We'll explore how plants see without eyes, how they feel light, sense danger, and even make decisions. But for now, just rest here, in the stillness beneath the ground, listening to the heartbeat of the forest and the quiet mind of the earth. Have you ever stood outside just before dawn, when the sky is still that tender shade between blue and silver, and felt the first light? That quiet moment, when the world shifts from darkness to light, is sacred for plants, because for them, light isn't just brightness, it's everything. It's their food, their clock, their compass, and perhaps their way of seeing. You might think only creatures with eyes can see. That vision requires lenses, pupils, and nerves. But the truth is more mysterious. For plants, light is not just something to look at, it's something to feel. They sense its color, its direction, its duration, and even its faintest whispers. They can tell the difference between the soft blue glow of morning and the golden hum of afternoon sunlight. They can even sense when something moves between them and the light, the shadow of another leaf, or maybe the passing of you. Picture yourself lying in a meadow, the sky above full of drifting clouds. Each time a shadow crosses your face, you can feel the coolness of it, even with your eyes closed. That's how plants live, with every cell aware, every leaf an open window into the light. They see the world not as shapes and edges, but as rhythms and waves. The language of photons dancing over their skin. Scientists call this ability photoreception, but that simple word hides a world of wonder inside the surface of a leaf. Tiny molecules called photoreceptors wait, each one like a microscopic eye. When a ray of light touches them, it changes their shape, sets off a chain reaction through the cell, a chemical whisper that travels deeper and deeper, until the entire plant knows that morning has come. Some molecules respond to blue light, some to red, and some can even feel ultraviolet, the invisible edges of light that we can't see. To the plant, the world glows in colors we can only imagine. Did you know that a seed buried in the dark can sense where the light is before it even breaks the soil? It bends its first fragile shoot toward that direction, as though it knows exactly where the sun will rise. No eyes, no brain, just light awareness written into every atom of its being. And that same awareness helps it survive. If another plant casts a shadow, it changes its growth, stretching higher, adjusting its leaves like solar panels, searching for the best angle of light. Each movement is slow but deliberate, a choreography written by sunlight and time. One of the most remarkable examples is found in sunflowers. You've seen them before, those tall, golden faces that turn to follow the sun. From dawn to dusk, like worshippers in an endless prayer, they move with astonishing precision. Each morning, the flower faces east, and as the day unfolds, it tracks the sun's arc across the sky. When night comes, it gently turns back, ready to begin again at first light. This motion, known as helios, is guided entirely by light perception and internal timing, a dance of hormones and growth that happens so slowly you'd miss it if you blinked. And yet, it's constant, like breathing, a quiet rhythm that connects plant and star. But what if I told you that some plants seem to sense light in a way eerily similar to how animals do? In recent studies, researchers found that certain algae have light-sensitive spots that resemble primitive eyes. They don't see in pictures, not like us, but they can detect movement, shape, and even direction, enough to swim toward sunlight or away from danger. And within the cells of higher plants, scientists discovered structures that behave almost like neural networks, patterns of electrical signaling that respond to light changes. It's as though evolution left behind a trail of half-memories, reminders that perception doesn't belong to animals alone, but to life itself. The more we learn, the stranger it becomes. Some experiments suggest that plants react not only to visible light, but to the intention of light, the subtle vibrations emitted before it even reaches them. A study once observed that when a light was turned on remotely, the plant's cells responded microseconds before the photons arrived, as if anticipating the moment. Is it coincidence? Quantum effect? Something beyond what we currently understand? No one knows for sure, but in that mystery lies the wonder. Because if plants are sensing not just light, but possibility, then maybe consciousness, in some form, runs deeper into nature than we ever dared to believe. Imagine the forest at night. The moonlight slips softly through the leaves, touching everything with a silver glow. Even now, the plants are listening, their leaves tilting, their cells quietly rearranging themselves to prepare for dawn. The darkness isn't sleep to them. It's a pause, a moment to process, to rest, to store the day's energy and dream of the sun. For in their own way, plants dream too, not in pictures or words, but in chemical symphonies of memory and anticipation, a slow, beautiful awareness stretching through the hours of night. And as you lie here listening, you might notice how much you and the forest share. Your own body responds to light, too. Your eyes sense the blue tones of morning and tell your brain to wake. And when the amber warmth of evening arrives, your body begins to produce melatonin, a quiet chemical whisper that says, "Rest now, you too are a photosensitive being, shaped by the same rhythms that guide the leaves outside your window." Light is your oldest companion, your invisible clock, your link to the turning earth. So perhaps the difference between us and the plants is not as wide as we imagine. We both follow the light, we both rest in the dark, and somewhere in that shared pattern is the pulse of something greater, the slow consciousness of life itself. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself as a sunflower, rooted, calm, bathed in the golden warmth of morning. Your leaves stretch and turn. Your face follows the light across the sky. You are patient, present, silent. Each ray that touches you is a message. Each shadow that crosses you is a reminder that change is constant, and yet peace remains beneath it all. Feel the sunlight against your skin, even now in the dark. The memory of it, warm and infinite. And when the night deepens, remember, plants don't fear the dark. They use it to rest, to breathe, to gather strength. Maybe that's a lesson we can learn too. That the absence of light isn't an ending, it's a part of the cycle. Every night prepares us for another sunrise. Every shadow holds the promise of dawn. As the stars shimmer softly above the world, we leave the field of sunflowers behind, their heads slowly bowing in the gentle night breeze. And we follow that breeze into another mystery, a quieter, stranger one. Because while the leaves above sense the light, the roots below can hear. In our next journey, we'll descend again into the hidden world beneath the soil, to discover how plants respond to sound, how they listen to vibrations, recognize music, and maybe even sing back to the earth. But for now, let your mind rest in the light of your imagination, drifting softly like pollen on a summer wind, carried by the rhythm of the world, and held gently by the slow intelligence. Have you ever wondered if silence is truly silent? If the quiet you hear in the middle of the night, that deep stillness that feels endless, is really empty? Or if perhaps, hidden beneath the surface of the world, something is still listening? We often think of sound as ours, as a gift of creatures with ears, lungs, and voices. But nature listens in ways far beyond our understanding. And tonight, we'll explore one of its strangest listeners. The plant, you see, even though plants have no ears, no drums or nerves to catch vibrations. They live in a world made entirely of sound, the hum of insects above them, the murmur of roots growing through soil, the patter of rain, and the deep, thunderous pulse of the earth's core. All of it vibrates through their bodies, like waves through water. Picture yourself lying in a forest again. The air is thick with night's perfume, moss, pine, damp leaves. A soft wind stirs. You close your eyes and listen, and under that gentle breeze, there's another rhythm, a low, slow vibration in the ground, steady and ancient. The heartbeat of the earth, the plants around you feel it too. Their roots spread wide, their stems quivering with the faintest tremors of life. Science once believed plants were deaf, too simple to notice the whisper of the world around them. But then came the experiments, quiet, delicate studies that changed everything in one. Scientists placed small speakers near the roots of bean plants. They played different frequencies, low hums, soft buzzes, and even recordings of running water. And something astonishing happened. The roots moved, not randomly, but purposefully, growing toward the sound of flowing water, even when no moisture was physically present, as if they could hear the promise of it, a distant echo of life calling them closer. Other experiments showed similar wonders. Seeds germinated faster when exposed to gentle music, while harsh, discordant noise slowed their growth. Plants near the sound of bees began producing more nectar, as if anticipating the pollinator's arrival. It was as though the world's quiet listeners were also performers, responding to the songs of life in perfect harmony. How does this happen? How does a being without ears detect a melody? The answer lies in vibration. Every molecule in the universe moves. Every motion sends out waves, invisible ripples through air and matter. And within the body of a plant, those vibrations travel through its tissues, bouncing off walls, shifting ions, triggering subtle electrical changes. A plant's cells can feel the pressure of sound waves the way our skin feels wind, and its internal chemistry translates those signals into action. In this way, a plant doesn't hear the way we do. It feels sound with its entire being. Did you know that some scientists believe roots can even listen to each other, sending faint clicks, ultrasonic pulses through the soil? It's a theory still whispered on the edge of research, but recordings have captured faint sounds emitted from the tips of growing roots, tiny pops and crackles like microscopic Morse code beneath the ground. It's possible that plants use these subtle vibrations to map their to sense obstacles, to avoid competing roots, or even to warn their neighbors. The earth, it seems, is full of invisible conversation, and we've only just begun to hear it. Now imagine this, far beneath an ancient oak tree, where the roots twist like fingers through the dark. There is a faint, rhythmic hum, a pulse moving through stone and soil. Each root catches that rhythm and passes it along, until the whole forest seems to tremble together, not with fear, but with connection, a silent chorus of awareness, each vibration a note in the symphony of life. Think for a moment about your own body, your heartbeat, your breath, your voice. Every sound you make begins as a vibration inside you, a ripple through air and water. You too are a resonance, a moving wave of energy within the universe. When you speak, you're not just sending sound outward, you're shaping the space around you. The plants, the walls, the air, all of it hears you in ways we can't fully imagine. Maybe that's why talking to plants sometimes seems to work. Not because they understand words, but because they understand energy, the tone, the vibration, the feeling carried between syllables. And if you think about it, isn't that how we humans truly connect to, not through the logic of language, but through rhythm, tone, and silence, through what we feel rather than what we say? The plants remind us of that, to listen with more than our ears, to hear with the whole of our being. In the depths of the rainforest, where sunlight barely reaches, sound becomes the forest's language. Raindrops falling from leaf to leaf, frogs calling to one another, branches creaking as they sway, and beneath it all, a slow, deep hum, the pulse of roots and fungi speaking through vibration. To sit there, in that kind of silence, is to hear the earth. It's a kind of listening that feels alive, where every sound seems to hold meaning, every rustle a story. But perhaps the most mysterious thing of all is that plants don't just respond to sound. They produce it, not in the way birds sing, but through subtle pops of air bubbles in their stems, clicks from root tips, and microscopic shifts as water moves through their cells. Tiny sounds that, if amplified, become a chorus of whispers, each note unique to the species, to the moment, to the mood of the plant itself. Scientists call this phenomenon cavitation. But when you listen to the recordings, those faint rhythmic pops, it feels less like physics and more like music, maybe. In a way, it is music. A melody of water, pressure, and life. The same kind of song your heartbeat makes inside your chest. A rhythm born of existence itself. So next time you stand beneath a tree, or brush your fingers along a leaf, try to imagine that hidden music. The world humming quietly to itself. The plants around you tuning to the same endless note. A vibration that binds all living things together. If consciousness is awareness of one's surroundings, then perhaps plants have always been awake, always aware, just tuned to a slower, deeper frequency, while we listen to words and sounds. They listen to movement and change. They know when you walk past, when rain is coming, when a storm is near, and they move accordingly. Silent but not unaware. Still, but not still. There's something deeply humbling in that thought, that every step we take sends ripples through the ground, and the world beneath us listens, that we are never alone in our movements, always part of a great listening, a communion of life through vibration. So now, as your eyes grow heavier, imagine yourself as part of that deep listening. Your breath in sync with the rhythm of the earth, the soft thud of your heart echoing faintly into the soil. You are both speaker and listener, a vibration within a vibration, connected to everything that hums quietly in the dark. Somewhere, far below, the roots of a great tree tremble faintly, picking up your rhythm, acknowledging your presence, and answering in kind, a sound too soft for human ears, but perfectly clear to the world itself. Sleep now, and know that even in your rest, the earth listens, the plants hum softly, and the air around you carries your heartbeat outward like a message into the night. And as we move deeper into this journey, we'll explore another sense altogether. Not light, not sound, but touch, the way plants feel the world through movement, how they sense danger, affection, and connection without ever taking a single step. So stay here, half awake, half dreaming, as we drift toward that next mystery, where the quiet world of touch begins. Have you ever wondered how something that cannot move can still feel? How a tree, rooted in place, senses the world with such precision, knowing where the light will rise, when the rain will come, and even when another living being brushes against it. We think of touch as human, the warmth of skin against skin, the softness of fabric, the rush of wind through our hair. But what if I told you that every plant you've ever seen feels the world more deeply than you imagine? Not with fingertips or nerves, but with every cell of its body. In a language older than words, older than sound. Picture yourself now in a moonlit meadow. The air is cool. The grass sways like waves on a green ocean. You walk barefoot, and each step presses softly into the earth. Beneath your feet, thousands of roots tremble, responding to the weight of your presence, not in fear, but in recognition. They know in their own silent way that something alive has touched the ground. In this vast and hidden world, plants exist in constant awareness of contact. A vine will sense a nearby branch and begin to curl. A sunflower will turn its face toward the warmth of your shadow. And the mimosa, that delicate fern often called the touch-me-not, will fold its leaves instantly when brushed by a fingertip, as though it flinches, not from pain, but from instinct, a memory etched into its cellular heartbeat. Scientists once believed such reactions were simple reflexes, mere chemistry at work. But experiments began to reveal something stranger. Plants not only react to touch, they remember it. In a study with the same shy mimosa, researchers dropped water droplets onto its leaves. At first, each drop caused the plant to fold, as though startled, but after repeated trials, it stopped responding, as if it had learned that the drops were harmless. And when the experiment was repeated days later, the plant still remembered. It didn't close its leaves. It had stored the experience like a tiny, living record of the past. How could something without a brain remember? The answer, perhaps, lies in the flow of its inner life. When you touch a leaf, tiny electrical impulses surge through its cells, a faint bioelectric signal traveling through the plant's veins, almost identical to the way a nerve fires in your own body. These pulses can move astonishingly fast, carrying information from one part of the plant to another, warning, adjusting, preparing, a conversation of touch. Without a single spoken word, the Venus flytrap is perhaps the most famous listener to touch. Inside its jaws are delicate hairs, tripwires, tuned to the subtlest movement. Touch one once, and nothing happens. Touch it twice within 20 seconds, and the trap slams shut. A perfect timing mechanism evolved over millions of years. It's not reacting blindly, it's counting, waiting to confirm that the sensation is real, that what touched it is alive, not just the whisper of a falling leaf. But it doesn't stop there. If the captured prey struggles, the plant releases digestive enzymes. If it stays still, the plant reopens, as though saying, "You were just passing by." That kind of sensitivity, that living patience, belongs to a world that feels constantly and feels wisely deep in the forests of Southeast Asia. Another plant uses touch to climb into the light. The tendrils of a passion flower vine stretch outward, searching through space like blind fingers. When they brush against a twig, they curl instantly, anchoring the plant and pulling it higher if the contact is too hard. They recoil if it's soft and stable. They hold fast. They can tell the difference between rough and smooth, between living and lifeless, as though each tendril has a mind of its own. And perhaps, in a sense, it does. Not a mind like ours, but an intelligence written into structure, into chemistry, into flow. Plants don't need brains because every part of them thinks a little. Every cell can sense and respond. Every leaf can decide how much light to take. Every route can choose which path to grow. It's a distributed awareness, a consciousness spread through the whole body like a dream that never ends. Did you know that when a tree is wounded, its neighbors feel it too? Through the fungal networks underground, the mycorrhizal web that binds forests together, a chemical signal travels outward, warning nearby trees of danger. They respond by thickening their bark, producing defensive compounds, preparing themselves against unseen threats. It's a language of touch through soil and root, an embrace of mutual protection. Now imagine that deep beneath your feet, thousands of tiny filaments, roots, and fungi intertwined, shivering with information, a living internet of touch, transmitting not light, not sound, but feeling. And yet, in our human rush through the world, we forget that we're surrounded by beings that feel without nerves, that touch the air and the soil with an intimacy beyond our reach. While we brush past leaves without noticing, they feel the faint drag of our passing, the temperature of our skin, the pressure of our footsteps. They live in a constant conversation of contact. There's a quiet suspense in this, the idea that the world beneath our senses is alive with sensation, that when the wind sweeps through a field of grass, it's not just movement, it's 1,000 living touches, a whisper from the sky to the soil. Each blade bends and rises, responding, remembering, and in their swaying, the world breathes. If you could slow time, you would see it, roots curling toward moisture, stems arching toward light, leaves adjusting their angles minute by minute, all of it movement, born from feeling. Plants move not with muscles, but with knowledge. They know where to go. They feel their way toward life. Some researchers have even found that plants can sense when a predator, like a caterpillar, touches their leaves. The moment the tiny feet press down, the plant releases a chemical alarm, summoning wasps that feed on the intruder. It's not coincidence, it's strategy, it's awareness. It's the language of touch translated into survival. Now, think about what that means. A forest doesn't just look alive, it feels alive. Every trunk, every branch, every petal is an organ of sensation. When a breeze moves through, the trees aren't just waving, they're communicating, feeling one another's presence through motion, their leaves brushing like fingertips in greeting. The forest, in its slow rhythm, is never still. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself as one of them. Your feet rooted deep in the ground, your arms outstretched to the night sky. Every drop of dew sliding down your skin is felt. Every tremor in the soil echoes through your bones. You do not move, but you are moved by rain, by wind, by life. The world touches you constantly, and you answer in silence. There's a peace in that thought, a deep comfort in knowing that touch does not always need motion. That feeling can exist without noise, without speed, in our fast, human world. We often crave touch as reassurance, to know we're not alone. But plants, they feel everything all the time. And they teach us that connection doesn't always mean closeness. Sometimes it means simply being receptive, open to the quiet pressure of the universe around us. The next time you walk through a garden, pause for a moment. Let your hand hover just above a leaf, not touching, just near. Even then, the leaf will respond, ever so slightly, to the change in air, to the heat of your palm, to the soft pulse of your presence. It may not move in a way you can see, but inside its cells, tiny currents shift. It knows you are there, so, as the night deepens and the world outside grows still, remember this: you are surrounded by beings that never stop feeling. They touch the air, the stars, each other, and perhaps even you. Their slow awareness is not separate from ours. It is part of the same great tapestry of sensation, woven through light, sound, and touch. Every moment you exist, you send ripples through that web, and the world feels you back. Now, as you breathe softly, imagine those ripples spreading outward, through the floor beneath you, through the ground, through roots and soil and stone, until they reach the forest, the vines, the grasses, and they all answer, in their slow, rhythmic way, a chorus of touch, a silent response, saying, "We feel you to sleep," and let yourself sink into that knowing, that everything around you listens, not just with ears, but with touch, with patience, with love. And when we return, we'll travel to another mystery, to the sense that reaches even farther, beyond the physical, the way plants communicate through invisible signals, how they talk, warn, and nurture one another through the unseen web of life itself. For now, breathe in the quiet and rest in the touch of the world. Gentle, ancient, alive. Have you ever felt that the forest was listening to you? That when you stood still beneath a canopy of leaves, something vast and invisible was aware of your presence, not in sound or sight, but in something deeper, like the pulse of life itself? What if I told you that plants are speaking all the time, not with voices or vibrations we can hear, but through invisible messages, a symphony of chemicals, electrical pulses, and whispered signals flowing through air and soil? The world around you is holding conversations far older than our species, and tonight we'll learn to listen. Picture yourself once again in the night forest, the same forest we entered before. But now it feels different, more alive, more alert. The moonlight falls in quiet silver ribbons, and somewhere a leaf stirs, not because of the wind, but because something nearby has spoken. A tree has been touched by an insect, a single nibble on one of its leaves. Within seconds, that tree sends out a chemical alarm. A sharp burst of molecules into the air, volatile compounds that drift silently through the night. They are warnings, and nearby trees smell them. They understand, and begin preparing their defenses, producing bitter compounds to make their own leaves unappetizing. They've been warned by their neighbor, without a single sound. This kind of communication happens everywhere, in jungles, in meadows, even in the little potted plants on your windowsill. When one is hurt, others feel it. When one thrives, others respond. The air around plants isn't empty. It's filled with invisible words, molecules that carry meaning. Each chemical scent is a letter, each reaction a reply. Scientists call them volatile organic compounds, tiny airborne signals used by plants to communicate with precision. A tomato plant, for example, can sense when a neighboring plant is under attack by caterpillars. It then activates its own defense genes before the insects even reach it. It's as though plants share a silent group chat, a warning system woven through the air itself. And it doesn't stop above the soil, because beneath the ground, a different conversation hums, a network so vast and complex that scientists have nicknamed it the Wood Wide Web. It's not a metaphor, it's real, a network of roots, fungi, and microorganisms that connect trees, bushes, and grasses across entire forests. Each fungus forms filaments that attach to roots, creating highways for nutrients, information, and energy. When a large, old tree, sometimes called a mother tree, absorbs sunlight through its leaves, it shares that energy through its roots, sending sugars and carbon through the fungal network to younger saplings in the shade, feeding them when they can't reach enough light. It's generosity written into biology. It's love in molecular form. If a plant becomes diseased, its neighbors will know. The network carries stress signals, warnings about pathogens, drought, or insect swarms. Nearby plants shift their growth, strengthen their roots, prepare. It's coordination without command, organization without a leader, a collective intelligence born of quiet cooperation. Can you imagine how alive the soil truly is? In a handful of forest soil, there are more living organisms than there are stars visible in the night sky. Each of them, fungi, bacteria, roots, plays a part in the constant exchange of information. When a root releases sugar, a microbe responds. When the microbe releases nitrogen, the plant reacts. An endless conversation of giving and receiving. There's something humbling about that. To realize that beneath every forest floor lies a community, a city built of roots, where signals flow instead of traffic, where cooperation replaces competition, and all of it happens without eyes, without speech, without thought as we know it. But maybe thought isn't the right word. Maybe it's something else, something more elemental, like awareness. Did you know that when scientists cut off a plant from its fungal network, it begins to behave differently? It grows more defensively, hoards resources. But when connected to the network, it shares freely, becoming part of the larger community again. It's as if connection changes not only how plants survive, but how they behave. And maybe that's not so different from us. We too are calmer when connected. We thrive when we feel part of something greater, and wither in isolation, perhaps on some deep biological level. We and the plants remember the same truth, that everything living wants to belong. There are also stranger discoveries, ones that border on the mystical. Researchers have found that when a tree is attacked by pests, it can send chemical messages not only through air and root, but through sound waves too. Ultrasonic vibrations ripple through its tissues, too high for human ears, but measurable. These microsounds differ depending on the kind of stress, drought, injury, or attack. Each condition has a different frequency, a code. The plants are speaking in vibrations, a whisper of sound that travels invisibly through the forest. Isn't that astonishing? That the world hums with speech we simply haven't learned to hear yet. In another experiment, plants grown in soundproof chambers failed to respond to certain external cues, while those exposed to natural forest noise behaved differently, as though attuned to the rhythm of their environment, to the faint crack of roots expanding, the drip of water through soil, the songs of nearby life. Maybe the earth itself is a chorus, and every plant is a note, listening, singing, replying. The more we discover, the clearer it becomes. Plants are not solitary beings. They are members of vast, interdependent societies. They send nutrients to kin, warn their neighbors, and even change the chemistry of their leaves when surrounded by unrelated plants, as though adjusting their behavior depending on who's nearby. They know their community, and they act accordingly. And yet, despite all this evidence, a question remains. Is it communication if there's no awareness? Are these exchanges conscious, or are they simply automatic processes of survival? Science hesitates to call it intelligence. But if communication is defined as the sending and receiving of information with purpose, then perhaps plants have been conversing all along. In languages we're only beginning to decode. Imagine, now, that the air around you is filled with invisible threads, each one carrying meaning. Between every blade of grass, between every leaf and root, tiny stories are being told. A daisy sighs to another about the coming rain. A pine tree murmurs warning about dry air. A field of wheat adjusts its chemistry as clouds drift over the moon. They are aware in their own quiet way, and their world is never silent. What would it mean for us to listen differently? To walk into a forest not as observers, but as participants in an ancient dialogue? Maybe that's the true secret of the natural world, that it doesn't need to shout, because everything is already in conversation. The rustle of leaves, the perfume of flowers, the hum of the soil beneath your feet, each of these is a word, a message, a story unfolding slowly in the dark. Let that thought rest in your mind like moonlight on still water, that you are surrounded by life that listens, that speaks, that knows, and though you may not understand its language, you are still part of its conversation. There's comfort in that, a gentle reminder that connection is the essence of existence, that everything, the air, the trees, the ground beneath your bed, is woven together in threads of invisible meaning. When you breathe in, you take in molecules once released by a forest miles away. When you exhale, some of those molecules will touch a leaf tomorrow, and it will know you were here. So the next time you step outside, pause, feel the stillness of the air, and know that what seems silent is actually full of words. Messages older than language, vibrations older than thought, a slow, rhythmic conversation that never truly stops. And as the night deepens and your eyelids grow heavier, imagine the forest whispering around you, its roots humming softly beneath the soil, its branches shifting in gentle agreement, and the air between the leaves alive with invisible voices, speaking a language of calm, of balance, of belonging. Now, rest in that awareness that you are part of the great, unbroken dialogue of life, a single breath in an endless conversation. And as you drift toward sleep, know that somewhere deep beneath the soil, the plants are still speaking, and they are saying, all is well. In our next chapter, we'll explore an even stranger mystery, how plants hear the world, not through ears, but through vibrations and frequencies, and how some seem to respond to the very sound of life itself. But for now, breathe deeply, and let the quiet communication of the living world carry you gently into dreams. Have you ever listened to silence and wondered if something else was listening to? The night seems quiet, but if you could peel back the stillness, if you could hear beyond human ears, you would find the air alive, humming with frequencies, vibrations, whispers, and perhaps a kind of hidden song. What if plants, those motionless, rooted beings, could hear that song? Not in the way we hear, but in a subtler, stranger way. What if they respond to sound, to rhythm, to vibration itself. Tonight, as you drift between thought and dream, we'll travel through that mystery, the secret music of the living world. And the question that lingers softly in the dark: can plants hear? Picture yourself in a field under a wide night sky. The stars shimmer like tiny, patient listeners. The grass moves gently with the wind. And all around you, the world hums. You may not hear it, but beneath the human range of sound, the earth is full of vibration, roots shifting, insects walking, water trickling through veins of soil. Even light, silent to us, has its own frequency. And somewhere among all of that invisible orchestra, the plants are listening. For centuries, the idea that plants could hear was considered fantasy. But then, science began to notice strange things. In laboratories, researchers played sounds of buzzing bees near flowers and watched as the flowers' nectar production increased within minutes. As though preparing for pollination, they recognized the specific frequency of their pollinators' wings and responded. When silence returned, they calmed. When the sound returned, they reacted again. It was deliberate, precise, and astonishing. In another experiment, scientists placed young seedlings in separate rooms. One room was filled with music, soft classical melodies, low frequencies, and natural sounds. The other remained silent. After several weeks, the plants in the musical room grew stronger, their roots deeper, their leaves broader. It wasn't magic, it was physics. Vibration, even at low decibel levels, stimulates movement of ions within plant cells. It can alter the flow of water, trigger growth hormones, and even activate genes related to defense and development. So yes, plants do not hear like us, but they respond to sound waves. They feel them, and in their world, feeling and hearing may not be so different after all. Imagine the life of a tree standing through centuries of storms and whispers. The low rumble of thunder vibrates through its roots. The rustling of nearby leaves sends subtle pulses along its branches. Each sound is a touch, a pattern in the fabric of its awareness. It learns the rhythm of its environment, the frequencies of safety and danger, of stillness and movement. When caterpillars feed on a leaf, the chewing produces faint acoustic vibrations. Plants can detect these sounds, and within hours, they release chemical defenses, repelling the attackers. They can distinguish between the sound of wind and the sound of an herbivore's bite. They know the difference. They know when to stay calm and when to respond. The idea seems almost impossible, a plant recognizing the sound of being eaten, and yet, that's exactly what experiments have shown in soundproof chambers. Plants exposed to the vibration frequencies of insect feeding produced defensive compounds, while those exposed to random noises did not. They are listeners, silent but aware. Now imagine a forest as a great concert hall. Each tree, each leaf, vibrating with the hum of the world. When wind moves through the branches, the sound isn't chaos. It's communication. Leaves touch and rustle, trunks groan softly. Roots shift beneath the soil, and through it all, a kind of language unfolds, the rhythm of life in constant conversation. Did you know that plants themselves produce sounds too? Ultrasonic pops and clicks, tiny bursts of vibration that happen when they're stressed. When deprived of water, a plant emits minute acoustic signals, each one like a soft cry too high for human hearing, with sensitive microphones. Scientists recorded them distinct sounds for different conditions, as though the plant were expressing its state to the world. Each species had its own pattern, a signature tone, a voice. What if we could someday translate those voices? Imagine walking into a greenhouse and hearing the faint symphony of living communication, a soft chorus of thirst, contentment, and growth. We'd never look at silence the same way again. Some researchers are beginning to use sound, not just to study plants, but to speak to them. They play certain frequencies, gentle vibrations that mimic nature's own rhythms, and watch as seeds sprout faster, flowers open earlier, and roots navigate more efficiently through soil. Sound, it seems, can guide life itself when tuned correctly. It becomes a bridge between species, a form of understanding without words. But beneath the science lies something more mysterious. Because if a plant can detect vibration, if it can react, remember, and adjust, then what else might it perceive? Could it sense footsteps approaching? Could it feel the distant roll of a storm long before it arrives? Could it, in its own slow and ancient way, be aware of the world's music, the low hum of life all around it? The philosopher might say that plants live in perpetual meditation. Their hearing is inward. Their awareness is not focused on detail, but on harmony. They are attuned not to moments, but to patterns, the long, patient rhythm of existence. They do not hear noise, they feel meaning, and perhaps that is why their world feels so peaceful, so steady, so calm. Let's pause for a moment and imagine you are lying on the forest floor, your head resting against the moss, your ears close to the ground. If you listen carefully, so carefully that even your heartbeat seems loud, you might begin to feel a hum beneath you, a vibration not of sound, but of life itself. That hum has been there forever, since the first leaf unfolded in sunlight, and it continues now. In every forest, every garden, every breath of wind, you are part of that vibration, your heartbeat, another rhythm in the same ancient song. Some scientists even believe that the Earth's magnetic field and low-frequency hums from natural phenomena affect how plants grow. That roots align with subtle vibrations of the planet itself. That every tree dances slowly to the music of the earth. So slow that we never notice the motion, but it's there, constant, devotional. There's a quiet suspense in all this, isn't there? The thought that the air around you, the very silence you hear right now, might be full of conversations, of notes exchanged between living beings, a secret symphony, always playing, always felt. You are lying within it now, and though you cannot hear it consciously, some part of you does, because you, too, are made of vibration. Your cells, your atoms, your very breath, each moves in rhythm with the rest of life. And if the plants are listening, perhaps they listen to us as well, to the vibrations of our footsteps, to the frequency of our voices, maybe. When you whisper to your houseplant, when you sing softly while watering it, it responds not through thought, but through resonance. You become part of its soundscape, and it part of yours. Think of the ancients, those who sang to seeds before planting, who believed that music helped crops grow. They didn't have the instruments or data to prove it, but maybe they were right all along. Sound is life, and life listens. So, as you rest tonight, let your body tune to that truth, that you are surrounded by listening things, that even in silence you are heard, Let your breath be slow, your thoughts soft. Let the rhythm of your heartbeat join the quiet music of the night. And remember that the plants, the trees, the fields, the flowers sleeping outside your window are part of that same lullaby. They hear you, they feel you, they respond to you. The whole world hums in sympathy, a soft resonance of being, and as your eyelids grow heavy, the vibration of your breath slows, and your awareness begins to fade into the rhythm of the earth. Feel that connection, that gentle unity. Every whisper of air, every sigh of leaves, is another note in the sound of life. You belong to it. You always have. In the next chapter, we'll journey into another mystery: how plants see the world, how they read light, not only for survival, but for memory and meaning, how they know when day begins, and when the night truly ends. But for now, stay here in this stillness, where silence hums and life listens. Breathe, and let the world's quiet symphony sing you softly to sleep. Have you ever closed your eyes and still felt the sunlight? That gentle warmth on your skin, the faint golden glow that seems to linger behind your eyelids, as if the sun itself were whispering, "I'm still here." Now, imagine if you could see without eyes, sense light, not through vision, but through your very being, every surface, every cell, alive to brightness and shadow, to color and to warmth. This is how plants see the world. They do not have eyes, but they are creatures of light. Their entire existence revolves around its rhythm, not just for energy, but for awareness, for understanding when to sleep, when to bloom, and when to reach toward the heavens. Picture yourself lying in a field at dawn. The horizon glows faintly blue. Dew glistens like 1,000 tiny mirrors, and the first rays of sunlight touch the leaves. At that moment, something extraordinary happens. Millions of microscopic photoreceptors awaken. They sense not just light, but its color, its angle, its duration. They measure it, interpret it, and respond. It's as if every leaf is an eye, and the forest itself is watching the sunrise. You see, light to a plant isn't just illumination, it's language, a code that tells it how to live. Through specialized pigments called phytochrams and cryptochrams, plants can detect whether the light around them is red, blue, or far red. They can tell whether they're shaded by another plant, whether a cloud has passed overhead, or whether the sun is beginning to fade. When a tree senses the reddened hue of evening, it knows to slow its growth, to shift its chemistry, to prepare for rest. When it feels the deep blue of morning, it stirs again. Photosynthesis begins. Water rises through the roots, and life restarts its luminous rhythm. The light they feel is time itself. Plants measure days and seasons with astonishing accuracy. Some flowers open only at dawn, others only at dusk. Each movement synced to the Earth's rotation, a green clock that never stops ticking in darkness. Plants remember the light. They calculate how long it's been gone and predict when it will return. This memory, this hidden awareness, is one of the most subtle forms of intelligence in nature. In 2016, a study revealed something astonishing. Plants kept in constant darkness still maintained their daily rhythm. They knew when morning should come, even though no light reached them. They carried the memory of sunlight deep within their molecular circuits. That rhythm, the circadian clock, exists not in a brain, but in every cell, Each cell has its own tiny sense of time, like countless watches ticking in perfect harmony. When you think about it, plants are time travelers. Their lives unfold in slow motion, but their internal senses are always awake. They read the quality of light the way we read the tone of someone's voice. They know the story it tells of season, direction, temperature, and even emotion. Perhaps not in the human sense. But think of this. When light changes suddenly, plants react as though startled, closing their leaves, adjusting their pigments, recalibrating. It's a reflex, but also a kind of perception. They do not see the world's beauty, they feel it. And maybe that's the deeper form of seeing. Imagine a sunflower slowly turning its face toward the moving sun. It does not decide to move, it senses. Its stem filled with light-detecting cells that stretch and contract as brightness shifts across the sky. It tracks that movement every single day, and even after the sun sets, the memory lingers. By morning, the flower has already turned back east, ready again to greet the dawn. That motion is ancient, older than memory, older than humanity itself. The first algae, floating in primordial seas, already followed the light, using simple molecules to detect its presence. That instinct became the foundation of all life, because where there is light, there is possibility, there is energy, and there is hope. Now, let's travel to the rainforest, where light is scarce, filtering down through thick canopies. Each beam a treasure, each flicker a signal. Here, plants compete not through violence, but through vision. They stretch, lean, twist, all to catch a fraction more of that golden stream. A single change in light angle can spark a cascade of growth. A plant stretching toward the source, another fading into shadow. It's a silent ballet of survival, or perhaps of devotion. But there's a deeper mystery still. Some plants see in ways even we cannot imagine. They sense ultraviolet light, the hidden rays beyond human sight. To them, the world glows differently. Some flowers bear patterns visible only in ultraviolet, guiding bees like neon runways to their nectar. We see a daisy, but a bee sees a map, and the plant, in turn, knows it's being seen. The communication between plant and pollinator is built entirely on light, on a shared visual language written in wavelengths. It's elegant, ancient, and entirely invisible to us, and yet it is happening right now, outside your window, in every garden and field. Light even tells plants when to reproduce, when to release pollen, when to rest for winter. When nights grow longer, they sense the change instantly and begin to conserve energy, preparing for dormancy. When days lengthen, they awaken, just as we do when sunlight returns after a long, cold night. But perhaps the most fascinating thing, the thing that makes scientists pause in awe, is how plants respond to artificial light. Street lights, indoor lamps, even the glow of a phone screen, they feel it. They can't distinguish human light from the sun's. So our creations have changed their world. In cities, trees near lampposts keep their leaves longer, flower earlier, sometimes exhausting themselves. They live in an endless day because of us. We've altered the rhythm of their sleep without ever noticing. And maybe that's a quiet reminder that we share more with them than we think. We, too, are creatures of light. Our moods shift with the sunrise. Our sleep depends on darkness. We crave the warmth of morning and the calm of dusk. When we stare at screens too late into the night, we trick our brains into thinking it's still day. We lose the rhythm that life evolved to follow. And like the city trees, we forget. So tonight, as you lie there, imagine yourself returning to that natural rhythm. Feel your breath slow, your heartbeat align with the earth's gentle pace. The light outside fades, and your mind begins to dim with it. That's what your body was designed for, to follow light and to let go when it fades. There's something poetic about the idea that plants see with their whole being. They are immersed in the story of light. They become their vision. Each photon that touches them is both message and nourishment. They live by absorbing beauty, and isn't that what we long for? To live in light, to grow toward it, to rest when it goes. Now, think of the light that reaches you even now. Perhaps a dim lamp or the moon outside your window. That same light touched leaves somewhere. Perhaps traveled through forests, reflected from rivers, bounced off mountains before finding you. Light is the thread that connects all living things, from the first algae in the ocean to you. Here, listening, half awake, you are part of that luminous story. And maybe, just maybe, light isn't only a physical force. Maybe it carries memory. Maybe, when it touches a leaf, some small trace of that encounter lingers. A whisper of recognition, a vibration shared. We can't measure that yet, but who's to say what awareness feels like to something that is light? So, as the night deepens, let yourself drift into that thought, that your cells, too, remember the sun, that you, too, are made from photons, long traveled from stars, that your heartbeat, your warmth, your very consciousness is a form of light slowed down and shaped into being. The plants outside your window, the trees beyond your street, they are not sleeping in darkness. They are dreaming in wavelengths. They are whispering to one another in the color of night, waiting for the first light to wake them again. When dawn returns, they will turn toward it, slowly, gracefully, and once more. They will see, now, as your eyes grow heavy, let that same light rest behind your eyelids. Let your thoughts fade into soft gold. Let your breathing mirror the rhythm of sunrise and sunset. You are safe here. You are seen by the world. And the light, that ancient living force, sees you to drift. And let the photons of your dreams carry you into a new day, quietly, peacefully, beautifully. And when you wake, remember, the light that greets you is the same light that nourishes every leaf, every tree, every breath. It connects you. It welcomes you home. Have you ever walked through a forest and felt a strange sense of déjà vu? As if the trees remember you, as if the ground beneath your feet recognizes your step. The breeze shifts slightly. The leaves tremble, not from the wind, but from something else, a kind of recognition, as though the world itself is quietly saying, I remember. We often think of memory as a human treasure, stored deep inside the folds of our brains, a secret archive of feelings, smells, and sounds. But what if memory isn't confined to minds at all? What if the earth itself remembers, in its roots, its waters, its leaves? What if the forest, the garden, even the smallest sprout holds stories of every light it has felt, every drop of rain, every creature that brushed against it? Science once laughed at the idea, but that laughter grew quieter when the plants began to answer back. Picture this, a small plant called Mimosa pudica, known as the sensitive plant, with delicate fern-like leaves that close instantly when touched, like tiny green hands folding in surprise. In the 1970s, researchers began an experiment. They dropped water droplets gently onto the leaves. The plant recoiled, folding itself in defense, again and again. But after many repetitions, something changed. The plant stopped reacting. It had learned that the water was harmless. Weeks later, when tested again, it still remembered. Number brain, no neurons, just memory. How could this be possible? How can something without a nervous system recall the past? The answer lies in the elegant complexity of plant cells. Each one a tiny universe of chemical signals, electric impulses, and molecular switches that turn on and off. In humans, neurons connect across synapses, forming pathways strengthened by repetition. In plants, ion channels and calcium waves do something eerily similar. When a plant experiences something, heat, touch, drought, it doesn't just react in the moment. It changes, adjusting its DNA expression, rearranging molecules, leaving a kind of biochemical note that says, "Remember this." This is called epigenetic memory, a way for living things to record experiences without altering the core DNA. In plants, these epigenetic marks can last through seasons, and sometimes through generations. A tree that survives a drought passes on resilience to its seedlings, as if whispering, "Be ready, the sun can be cruel." A crop exposed to cold will bloom earlier next spring, anticipating the chill before it arrives. It's not instinct, it's inheritance of memory. Think about that. A forest remembering fire, a meadow remembering frost. Each plant a living diary of what the earth has endured and what it has learned to survive. Even single leaves seem to possess fragments of recollection. When touched repeatedly, they can become less sensitive, as though they've grown accustomed to the feeling. Scientists call this habituation, a term once reserved for animals with brains. But now the plants share it too. Imagine standing in a meadow that's seen centuries of wind and rain. Each generation of grass carries traces of the last tiny molecular echoes of storms long past. The landscape itself becomes an organism with memory. When you walk through it, you're stepping across the memories of thousands of seasons. And in some strange, beautiful way, those memories are still alive. But here's where the mystery deepens. Because plants don't just remember their own experiences. They remember what happens to others in a grove of poplars. When one tree is attacked by insects, it sends out chemical alarm signals, airborne molecules of warning. Within minutes, nearby trees begin producing defensive compounds, even though they haven't yet been touched. And later, when the threat is gone, their responses change more quickly next time, as though the forest as a whole has learned and remembers. This is the strange intelligence of networks, the shared mind beneath the soil. Mycorrhizal fungi, the great underground web, link roots together like threads in a vast brain. Nutrients and information flow through these filaments, allowing trees to communicate, to nurture their young, to warn their neighbors. The forest is not a collection of individuals, but a single living memory, slow, immense, and conscious in ways we're only beginning to perceive. There's something profoundly humbling about this, because it suggests that awareness may not begin with the brain, but with the ability to respond, adapt, and remember. Perhaps memory is simply life's way of saying, I have learned, and you too, are a creature of memory. Every cell in your body remembers the rhythm of light, the taste of air, the weight of your first breath. You carry memories not just from your life, but from the lives that came before you, encoded in your genes, passed from ancestor to ancestor. You are, in a very real way, the sum of everything that has remembered you into being. Now, imagine this on a planetary scale. Every blade of grass, every drop of water, every shifting grain of soil, a record of what the world has felt. A vast and ancient memory spanning billions of years. The earth itself, remembering through form and pattern, through the way a river bends, through the growth rings of a tree, through the seeds that wake after centuries asleep, like forgotten dreams blooming back into time. Some seeds, like those of the lotus, have remained dormant for more than 1,000 years. And when they finally sprout, they remember exactly how to be what they were meant to be. Unchanged, perfectly precise. It's as though time itself cannot erase the instructions. The identity, the memory of being alive. Close your eyes now and think of the trees you've known. Perhaps one you played under as a child, one you passed on your way to school, one that stands silent outside your window now. Each of them remembers light and rain and the faint touch of your passing. Their rings hold the story of every year, each layer a page of weather and waiting. If you could listen, really listen, you might hear the slow turning of their memories beneath the bark. Whispering, not in words, but in the creak of wood, the sigh of wind through leaves. Some scientists have begun to wonder if memory is a pattern, and patterns exist in all systems of feedback. Then perhaps the entire biosphere is a living memory network. Every organism a neuron, every exchange of light and air a thought. And if that's true, then when we dream, we're not just remembering our own lives, but echoes of everything that has ever lived. There's a story told by botanists about a group of oak trees in Germany. Planted hundreds of years ago, they grew together, their roots intertwined so tightly that when lightning struck one, the others shuddered too, not from the impact, but from recognition, a shared pulse of energy through the underground web. For weeks afterward, the connected trees changed their chemistry, as if holding the memory of the event, mourning in their own silent way. It makes you wonder, if memory is connection, then maybe nothing is ever truly forgotten. The things you've loved, the moments that shaped you, even the small, quiet gestures that seem to vanish, perhaps they live on, absorbed into the great living fabric of the world. In that sense, plants are the keepers of time. They archive the seasons, record the sunlight, store the breath of every creature that has ever passed by, and in return, they offer something priceless: continuity, the reassurance that nothing is truly lost, only transformed, translated into new forms of life. So tonight, as your breathing slows and the edges of thought begin to blur, imagine that you, too, are part of that memory, your heartbeat, a pulse in the grand rhythm of the earth. Your inhale, a continuation of ancient winds. Your exhale, a message to the leaves, saying, I was here, and I remember you too. Perhaps that is what dreams really are, the meeting point between human memory and nature's memory, a place where all recollections overlap, where the whisper of a tree merges with the pulse of a star, and for a brief, quiet moment, everything that has ever lived remembers everything else. So rest now, and let that thought settle like soft moss around your mind. You are safe within the memory of the world, and the world is safe within you. Nothing you have felt, nothing you have lost, has vanished. It has simply become part of the great remembering. The plants are still listening, the forest is still keeping watch, and the earth, in its infinite patience, is still remembering your footsteps, your breath, your light. Sleep deeply, and when you wake, know this: you are part of an unbroken chain of memory, woven through time, rooted in the soil of stars, and next, we'll wander even further into this mystery, into how plants not only remember, but communicate those memories through invisible signals, a secret language of scent, chemistry, and vibration that binds the green world together. So let your body rest, let your thoughts dissolve, and drift with me toward Module 9, where the forest begins to speak in ways only silence can understand. Have you ever stood barefoot on soft earth after a gentle rain and felt something stirring below, like the faint pulse of a secret life moving unseen? Beneath your feet lies a world so intricate, so quietly alive, that even the grandest cities of humankind seem simple in comparison. If you could shrink yourself down and step beneath the surface, you would enter a hidden universe, a tangled web of roots, fungi, and microscopic networks, all working together in perfect silence. The question is, are they just reacting, or are they communicating, perhaps even feeling? Imagine yourself walking through a dense nighttime forest, the air cool and damp, stars flickering faintly through the canopy above. Each step you take makes a soft sound, leaves whispering under your feet. The ground feels alive, spongy and rich with unseen energy. As you breathe in the scent of soil and moss, imagine that beneath you, a vast communication network is pulsing quietly, unseen yet everywhere, a silent conversation between the trees, the fungi, and the smallest living things on earth. Down there, in the darkness, roots stretch like fingers through the soil, seeking connection, seeking life. They intertwine with thin, hair-like strands of fungal mycelium, nature's delicate web. Through this living network, nutrients and messages travel like whispers in a vast underground city. Some scientists call it the Wood Wide Web, a fitting name for this organic internet that keeps entire ecosystems alive. Trees that stand meters apart are not isolated. They are connected through millions of invisible filaments, sharing information, water, and even emotional chemistry. Let's imagine an old mother tree, tall, wise, standing at the heart of the forest. She has lived for centuries, her roots woven into the network like ancient highways. When sunlight fades and a young sapling nearby struggles in the shade, the mother tree can send carbon, nitrogen, and sugar through the mycorrhizal web to help it survive. It's not charity, not in the human sense. It's balance, communication, a shared will to endure. Scientists have observed that older trees often send more resources to their own seedlings, a kind of maternal instinct written not in blood, but in the pulse of sap. Did you know that when one tree is attacked by insects or disease, it can send chemical signals through the air or through its roots, warning others nearby to strengthen their defenses? The acacia trees of Africa, for instance, release tannins into their leaves when giraffes begin to eat them, making the leaves bitter. But here's where it gets remarkable. Neighboring trees, downwind, sense the airborne message and start producing tannins too. Long before any giraffe arrives, it's as if the forest whispers, "Danger is near," and all who can hear it prepare. But this is more than survival. Some researchers believe these signals show a kind of awareness, perhaps not consciousness as we know it, but something like it. The trees and fungi, bacteria and roots all operate in a collective intelligence, a field of sensing and response that transcends the individual. There's no brain, no neurons, yet the pattern is unmistakable. Input, reaction, memory, and even choice. Could the soil itself, the living earth beneath our feet, be a vast, slow-thinking mind? Close your eyes for a moment and picture it, a network of light, spreading beneath the world, glowing softly in the dark. Each pulse of energy carrying a message. Share here, protect there, grow now, wait, sleep, wake. This is not the cold logic of a machine. It's organic, ancient, patient. If you were to listen, truly listen, perhaps you could hear the rhythm of this slow conversation, the voice of the earth itself. And yet so much of this remains unseen and unmeasured. Scientists still struggle to define what communication really means in the plant world. Is it instinct or something greater? When roots sense gravity, when leaves turn toward the sun, when flowers close at night, we call it adaptation. But when networks of roots adjust nutrient flow to favor the weak, when trees warn others of danger, when fungi connect strangers across species, that begins to look like awareness, perhaps even empathy. In one experiment, researchers severed the mycorrhizal links between trees, isolating them from the fungal network. Deprived of this silent communication, the isolated trees weakened. Their immune systems faltered, and their growth slowed. The forest without its underground network lost harmony. Its music turned to noise. It's a haunting reminder that connection, even in silence, sustains life. There's a strange comfort in knowing this. The ground beneath us, so ordinary, so easily overlooked, is alive with thought-like motion. The roots do not dream, but they remember where the rain fell, where the sun once shone. They reach not blindly, but knowingly, guided by memories stored in molecules and patterns of growth. If the forest could speak aloud, perhaps it would say what every living thing quietly feels. We are all connected. And so, as you lie there now, listening to the soft rhythm of your own breath, imagine your heartbeat syncing with the quiet pulse of the earth. Beneath your home, beneath your bed, beneath every field and forest, a network older than humanity hums softly, keeping the world alive. Maybe that's the real consciousness of plants, not thought, not self-awareness as we know it, but a kind of presence, a belonging, a continuous awareness of being part of something vast and whole. As the night deepens and your eyelids grow heavier, let yourself drift into that connected stillness. The world below whispers in peace, carrying its messages through root and stone, reminding us that nothing truly lives alone. And as you slip toward sleep, The voice of the forest fades into quiet hums of comfort, reminding you gently that you too are part of this endless network of life. So rest now, traveler of thoughts. Let the whispers of the soil cradle you into dreams. For in the end, even sleep is another kind of connection. Between one moment and the next, between one breath and the silence that follows. Have you ever stood before a still plant, a fern, a sunflower, or a quiet oak, and felt for a fleeting second that it was aware of your presence? It doesn't move or blink or breathe the way we do, and yet something in the air shifts. A silent acknowledgement passes between you and it. For centuries, humans dismissed such feelings as imagination, superstition, or poetry. But now, as science peels back the layers of mystery, a strange truth begins to emerge. Perhaps plants are not as still as they seem. Perhaps beneath their quiet surface, something is pulsing, listening, responding. Imagine walking through a moonlit greenhouse, the kind where silence feels thick and alive. Glass panes glow with reflected starlight, and shadows of leaves stretch like fingers across the floor. The air smells faintly of damp soil and chlorophyll. You move slowly between rows of plants, hearing nothing but the soft hum of night insects outside. And yet, if you stand very still, you might sense something moving, not with sound or sight, but with presence, a rhythm, faint as a heartbeat, deep in the roots, deep within the stems and leaves of plants. A hidden rhythm governs their lives. Tiny electrical impulses travel through them, guiding their growth, their responses to light, touch, and danger. Scientists once believed such signaling was too primitive to be meaningful. But new research paints a different picture. In laboratories around the world, sensitive electrodes have captured faint electrical waves pulsing through stems, synchronizing across leaves and roots. When a leaf is touched, that pulse changes. When light shifts, it flutters. When danger nears, it spikes. One might call it the heartbeat of a plant, though it's slower, more deliberate, more ancient than ours. In some species, the rhythm beats once every few seconds, in others every few minutes. Each pulse pushes water and nutrients through veins, much like blood through arteries. When researchers recorded these signals over time, they found something remarkable. They fluctuate, not randomly, but in patterns, patterns that seem to encode information. Picture a field of sunflowers at dusk. Their golden faces have followed the sun all day, turning in unison as if choreographed by some invisible conductor. As night falls, they all return, slowly, to face east again, ready for the next dawn. This is not mere habit. It's driven by internal clocks, molecular gears ticking inside every cell, even as the world sleeps. Plants possess circadian rhythms, just as humans do. They anticipate sunrise, predict nightfall, and prepare for both long before they happen. But here's where things get stranger. Scientists have found that when plants experience stress, drought, damage, or touch, they send out waves of electrical activity that ripple through their tissues, faster than nutrients can move. Called action potentials are eerily similar to the electrical spikes that fire in animal nerves. When one part of the plant is harmed, the signal spreads, alerting distant leaves to strengthen their defenses. It's as if the plant is saying, something is wrong, be ready. Now imagine that message traveling through the soil, through the mycorrhizal network you heard about before. From one root to another, from one plant to the next. An unseen forest-wide pulse of awareness, spreading like a whispering heartbeat. Perhaps the entire forest moves together, not in steps or sound, but in waves of living electricity. Long ago, an Indian scientist named Jagadish Chandra Bose discovered something extraordinary. He built delicate instruments to measure plant responses, and he found that plants reacted to light, temperature, touch, and even emotion when exposed to music or gentle voices. Their electrical responses changed. They seemed calmer, more stable when subjected to harsh noise or injury. Their patterns grew erratic. He concluded that plants possess a nervous system-like function, capable of learning and memory. His ideas were dismissed for decades, too mystical, too humanizing. But modern science, equipped with advanced sensors and imaging tools, is now proving him right. In one study, scientists taught pea plants to associate a breeze with light, like Pavlov's dogs with their bells. The plants bent toward the fan even when no light followed, suggesting memory and expectation, a primitive form of learning. It's astonishing to think of green, voiceless beings that can remember and anticipate. Now, let's return to that moonlit greenhouse. You reach out and brush your fingertips along the leaf of a small mimosa plant. Instantly, it folds inward, its leaves closing like cautious hands. Within seconds, the entire stem droops as if bowing. Scientists call it thigmonisty, movement triggered by touch. But beneath that simple act lies an intricate cascade, ions flowing across cell membranes, pressure shifting within the plant's tiny veins. It's as if your touch was a word spoken in their language, and the plant replied, "I felt that." Now imagine this on a grand scale, a rainforest, ancient and vast, each leaf, vine, and root connected, reacting to the rhythm of the world. When rain begins to fall miles away, trees start adjusting, preparing to drink. When a predator appears, an insect, a fungus, a fire, the signal travels, unseen but instant, through air, through soil, through the pulse of life itself. The forest is alive, not just in form, but in feeling, not conscious as we are, but aware in its own profound way. Plants move too slowly for our eyes to catch, but speed up the footage, and they sway, curl, reach, and recoil like dancers in slow time. Each motion is guided by the electric pulse, the rhythm of their hidden heart. So what does this mean for us, for the people who rush through life, disconnected from the quiet intelligence beneath our feet? Perhaps it means we are not alone in our sensing. Perhaps awareness isn't the gift of humans alone, but a quality of life itself. From the smallest root hair to the tallest redwood, every living thing hums with the same silent song. If consciousness is the ability to sense, respond, and remember, then maybe the world itself is conscious, a slow mind spread across the landscape, dreaming in chlorophyll and carbon, its heartbeat steady, patient, eternal. As you breathe slowly now, imagine your own pulse syncing with that rhythm. You are not apart from it, you are part of it. The same elements that move through your veins, calcium, potassium, water, flow through the stems of plants, through the soil, through rivers and clouds. The earth is one continuous pulse, and you are a single note in its endless melody. So rest now, and as you drift toward sleep, Imagine that you are lying beneath a canopy of glowing leaves, each one pulsing softly with green light, each heartbeat slow and deep, whispering to you the same message that life has always spoken. Stay connected, stay aware, keep growing. The forest breathes, and so do you. The world hums, and your heart answers. And in that harmony, sleep comes easily, gently, like the closing of petals at dusk. Now, as we move onward into the next chapter, we'll follow another secret, the way plants not only feel, but remember. Not in words or thoughts, but in something deeper, something written in the language of life itself. Have you ever wondered if the forest remembers you? Maybe not your face or your footsteps, but your presence, the warmth of your body, the sound of your breath, the faint vibrations you left in the ground. You walk through the woods one day, years later, and something feels familiar. The same tree stands there, the same bend in the path, the same soft hush in the air. It almost feels like recognition, as though the forest sighs, "Ah, you've returned." Could it be that plants remember not as we do, in pictures or stories, but in their own slow chemical language? Picture yourself standing in an open meadow at twilight. The last light of the day spills across the grass, and every blade seems to shimmer somewhere nearby. A breeze moves through a grove of tall birches, their silver trunks glowing faintly. The air is cool, the world is quiet, and beneath this calm surface, a silent intelligence is at work. The plants around you are not only alive, they are remembering. For centuries, the idea that plants could store memory was dismissed as fantasy. Memory, after all, required brains, neurons, and synapses, things plants do not have. Yet, over the past few decades, scientists have discovered that plants retain experiences. They can remember droughts, light patterns, even mechanical stress, and use those memories to make future decisions. Take the Mimosa pudica, the same shy plant that folds when touched. In one experiment, scientists repeatedly dropped mimosa plants from a small height, not enough to hurt them, but enough to trigger their defense response. At first, the plants folded their leaves in alarm. But after several drops, something astonishing happened. They stopped reacting. They had learned that the fall was harmless, and they remembered it even weeks later. When exposed to the same stimulus, they remained calm. They had formed a memory without a brain, without a nervous system, purely through cellular chemistry. How does a plant remember? It turns out memory in plants is stored in the language of proteins, ions, and epigenetic markings. When a plant experiences stress, say, extreme heat or drought, it alters the activity of its genes. Some genes switch on, producing protective proteins, while others switch off to conserve energy. But even after the stress has passed, those changes can persist, like a molecular footprint left behind. When the same challenge returns, the plant responds faster, stronger, wiser. It's as if every leaf, every cell, carries a history of survival, a record written not in ink, but in the structure of its DNA. And this record isn't static, it's alive, passed down through seeds and roots, generation after generation, in a way. The forest does remember, not as an individual, but as a lineage. Now imagine an ancient oak standing in a quiet valley. It has seen centuries pass, storms rise and fade, fires burn and heal. Its roots dig deep, into soil rich with the ashes of its ancestors. Each ring in its trunk is a page of memory, one for drought, one for plenty, one for loss, one for rebirth. Beneath its bark, chemical messengers move like whispers, relaying what it has learned to the seedlings below. Scientists studying oak and beech forests found that young trees often carry the memory of their parents' struggles. If the mother tree endured years of dryness, her offspring grew with stronger drought resistance. Even when raised in normal conditions, the lesson had been inherited, not taught, not shown, but encoded. This is epigenetic memory, a kind of wisdom that flows through generations without words. Now imagine what that means for the world itself. The trees around us are not just reacting to the present, they are shaped by centuries of experience. The grass remembers the wind, the vines remember the shade. The flowers remember the bees that once visited them. Every breath you take carries molecules once exhaled by ancient forests that no longer exist. And in that sense, you too are part of this memory. But here's where it becomes even more mysterious. Plants don't just remember pain, they seem to remember pleasure, too, in experiments. Plants, exposed to harmonic vibrations, gentle sounds resembling wind or soft music, grew faster, healthier, and more resilient. When those same vibrations were played later, the plants recognized them, their internal chemistry responding as though greeting an old friend. It's as if they associated those frequencies with calm, with nourishment, with safety. You can almost imagine it, a field of flowers listening, not with ears, but with cells, the hum of bees, the rhythm of rain, the deep rumble of distant thunder, all become part of their internal library, a collection of remembered sensations stored in silence. Perhaps this is why a garden feels peaceful, not only because of its beauty, but because everything around you has learned, adapted, and remembered peace. The plants, in their quiet way, radiate stability, reminding your restless human mind that time can be patient, that survival can be soft. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the roots beneath your feet, each one a thread of living memory, connecting past to present. Think of all the moments stored there, the first light after a storm, the weight of snow, the warmth of a summer afternoon. Each leaf that unfolds in spring carries all of that within it, a whisper from 1,000 yesterdays saying, "You've made it this far." Maybe that's what the forest feels like when you walk through it, not awareness of you as a person, but recognition of your energy, your warmth, your belonging. For the forest has known countless beings before you, birds, insects, animals, rain, and light, and each one left a trace in its endless memory. You are one more ripple in that continuity. As you lie back now, listening to your own breath, imagine your body as a tree, your spine, the trunk, your breath, the wind, your heartbeat, the pulse of sap rising within. You to carry memories, not only of your own life, but of all the life that came before you, written in your cells, just like the plants. Every beat, every breath is part of a story that began long before you were born. And so, as night deepens and your thoughts grow softer, let yourself drift into the forest's memory. Let the air hold you, the earth cradle you, and the soft hum of life around you whisper, "Remember what you are, connected, enduring, alive." The forest does not forget, and neither do you, even in sleep. your body listens to the world, syncing with the rhythm of the earth's old dreams. Now, rest gently as we move into our next journey, where we'll explore how plants not only remember but communicate across distances, how their silent signals travel like invisible messages through the air and soil, connecting life in ways we're only beginning to understand. Have you ever stood beneath a tree and felt that the air around you had changed, a softness, a hush, as though something unseen was speaking, not in sound but in feeling? The leaves shift, the branches sway, and for a fleeting moment, it feels as if the world is breathing with you. Perhaps that's not imagination. Perhaps what you're feeling is communication, the secret language of plants traveling through the air, invisible, ancient, and alive. Picture a quiet forest at midnight. The world seems still, yet the air above the canopy hums with invisible motion. A faint mist hangs low, carrying scents of pine, soil, and dew. The trees stand motionless, or so it appears, but within them, an entire network of signals is at work. Molecules are moving, messages are forming. And even in the stillness of night, the forest is alive with conversation. When one leaf trembles in the wind, others feel it. When one branch breaks, nearby trees know. They sense through chemicals, through scent, through microscopic messengers drifting on the breeze. Plants release what scientists call volatile organic compounds, airborne chemicals that carry meaning, warning, or reassurance. Each molecule is a word, each pattern of release a sentence, and though no ear can hear it, this is how the world speaks to itself. Imagine, now, a single acacia tree on the African savanna. Its leaves shimmer in the hot wind. Its bark hums faintly with the energy of life. A herd of giraffes approaches, graceful and slow. One leans forward and begins to nibble on the leaves. The acacia senses this, not with eyes, not with nerves, but with chemistry. Within seconds, its cells begin producing a bitter compound called tannin. The leaves turn unpalatable, and the giraffe moves away. But before it does, the acacia releases something else, ethylene gas, invisible and drifting, carried by the wind to neighboring trees. Those trees, even untouched, sense the signal. They begin producing tannins too, defending themselves before any danger arrives. Within minutes, a chain reaction has spread across the plain. Every acacia is aware of the giraffes, and the herd must keep moving. That invisible wave of communication, faster than any root network, faster than any sound, is nature's wireless message. It's easy to think of this as instinct, as mere chemistry, but look closer. These plants don't react blindly, they respond selectively. An acacia won't release its warning unless the attack is real. Nor will it waste energy if the wind merely brushes its leaves. It senses the difference, it decides, and decision implies awareness, even if of a kind we can barely comprehend. Now imagine this happening not in one place, but everywhere, all the time, in fields, in gardens, in rainforests, and even in the small plants by your window. Plants emit chemical signals when they're touched, when they're hungry for light, when they're thirsty, when they're content. To us, it's scent, but to them, it's language. The perfume of a flower isn't just beauty, it's a coded message. Come find me, it says to bees. Bring the gift of life. When a tomato plant is injured, it releases methyl jasmonate, a distress call that warns neighboring plants to prepare their defenses when a willow is cut. It sends out salicylic acid, a chemical that tells nearby willows to grow stronger bark. These signals move not only through the air, but sometimes through light itself. Leaves that catch a change in wavelength, a shift in color, or reflection alter their internal chemistry, telling the plant whether its neighbors are thriving, struggling, or in shade. It's an invisible chorus of messages, a symphony without sound. Each breath you take in a forest carries these whispers of safety, danger, love, growth, and renewal. The air is full of stories. But it gets even more mysterious. In the 1980s, scientists discovered that plants can detect the sound of chewing even before an insect touches them. Certain plants recognize the vibration frequencies of feeding and activate their defenses. The rhythm of a caterpillar's bite is distinct, and the plant hears it through the tiny hair-like structures on its leaves. It's as though the plant knows something is coming long before the danger arrives. Some plants, like the vine Bouquilla trifoliata in Chile, take it even further. They can mimic their neighbors, changing the shape, size, and color of their leaves to blend into the surrounding foliage. If they grow beside a holly, they take on holly-like leaves. If beside a fern, they mimic the fern. It's an act of disguise, so perfect that scientists still don't understand how they perceive the other plant's form. No eyes, no brain, yet perfect imitation. How do they know? It makes you wonder whether there's a level of perception beyond what we can measure. A silent field of connection where information flows like breath, where everything living is both sender and receiver. Now, think about this. When you sit in a garden and breathe deeply, the air entering your lungs carries molecules released by the plants around you. You are literally inhaling their words, and in return, with every exhale, you give back carbon dioxide, the breath of your body, becoming their nourishment. You and the plants are locked in a conversation that predates language itself. If you listen closely, you can almost sense it, the gentle hum of leaves responding to light, the soft exhale of oxygen, like a sigh of contentment, the quiet rush of unseen dialogue carried on the night wind, each molecule a note, each plant a voice, together forming a song that sustains the world. There's an ancient wisdom in this language, a rhythm that knows no boundaries. The wind that touches a pine in one forest may carry its chemical message across valleys and mountains, blending with the whispers of countless other trees. Perhaps that's why being in nature feels so calming. The air itself carries messages of balance, of life continuing in harmony. Some mystics believe that when you meditate in a forest, your heartbeat and breath begin to synchronize with the frequencies of the trees. Modern science, curiously, agrees. Studies show that people exposed to natural phytoncides, the compounds trees release, experience lower stress, slower heart rates, and deeper sleep. The trees are not only communicating with each other, but with you, soothing you, reminding you of your place in the web. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, imagine yourself surrounded by this invisible music. Every breath you take is part of an ancient exchange. The air around you is alive with conversation, leaves speaking to leaves, roots whispering to soil, the wind carrying secrets from one life to another. Close your eyes and feel it, the cool current of messages passing through the air, the faint scent of earth, the quiet pulse of the planet thinking in silence. You are part of this conversation. Even if you don't yet understand the words, rest now and let the world's whispers wrap around you like a lullaby. For in the language of the leaves, in the breath of the night, in the soft chemistry of the air, the universe is always speaking softly, endlessly waiting for you to listen. And as we move forward into our next journey, we'll explore another mystery: how plants perceive light and time itself, how they sense dawn before it arrives, and how, perhaps, they dream of the sun even in the deepest dark of night. Have you ever felt as if a forest were breathing with you, as if every leaf, every branch, every silent stem was pulsing with something more than life, something like awareness? It's a feeling that comes when the night is still, when the air holds its breath, and you can almost sense that the trees are whispering, not to you, but to one another. Perhaps it sounds impossible that trees could hold a language all their own, a secret conversation traveling through the roots beneath our feet. But as you'll soon discover, perhaps the forest dreams far more vividly than we ever imagined. Picture yourself walking under a silver moon. The forest is hushed except for the faint rustle of leaves that dance. You step softly along a narrow path, the air cool and fragrant with pine and damp earth. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls, its voice echoing through the branches. The stars above shimmer faintly through a lace of leaves, and each tree stands like a tall, ancient guardian, holding stories that stretch far beyond your lifetime. If you pause here, if you listen not with your ears, but with your presence, you might begin to feel it, the slow heartbeat of the forest. It's subtle, steady, and impossibly alive. Science calls this vast underground network the mycorrhizal network, a web of fungal threads that connect tree roots across entire forests, a biological internet beneath the soil. Through it, trees share nutrients, send distress signals, and even warn each other of dangers like drought or pests. Imagine one tree dying of thirst, sending out a silent message underground, "Help me." And miles away, another tree responds, pushing extra carbon and water through the web toward its struggling neighbor. It's a lifeline of empathy, encoded not in sound or light, but in chemistry and connection. There was an experiment once. Scientists planted a young seedling in a dark chamber. They deprived it of light, the one thing every plant needs to survive, but connected it through fungal threads to another tree growing in the sun. Weeks passed, and miraculously, the shaded plant lived because the sunlit tree was feeding it through the roots, transferring sugar, carbon, and energy, a gesture that seemed less like instinct and more like kindness. Isn't that astonishing? A living being giving part of its stored strength to another, unseen, unspoken, yet entirely intentional. When this discovery was first made, many dismissed it as a simple exchange, an act of resource optimization. But when researchers measured the precision of these signals, which trees helped which, and when they noticed something else, older trees, the so-called mother trees, sent more resources to their kin, their own seedlings, and in some cases, to trees weakened by age or damage. This wasn't random, it was relational, it was care. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the base of one of these mother trees. Her roots stretch deep into the earth, connecting her to hundreds, maybe thousands of others. She senses the faintest pulse of their needs. She recognizes the signature of her own offspring among the tangled web below, and slowly, gently, she releases nourishment in the dark, feeding her young not through milk or touch, but through soil and silence. She will never see them, never feel them with branches or leaves, yet she knows they are there, and she gives without needing to be seen. The mycorrhizal network does more than share. It teaches. When a pest attacks one tree, chemical signals travel underground, alerting others to produce defensive compounds before the invader even arrives. When carbon levels shift in the air, the network adjusts how resources are shared, maintaining balance across the entire forest. The forest, in this sense, behaves like a single, vast organism. It feels, it responds, it remembers. In the poetic words of one researcher, the forest is wired for wisdom, and yet, for all its beauty, this hidden world is fragile. When we cut down trees, when we clear forests, the network shatters. Messages fail to deliver, support systems collapse, and the collective intelligence, the dreaming, breathing consciousness of the forest falls silent. It's a reminder of how deeply intertwined all life is, and how easily the web of connection can be broken. Now, as you breathe softly in the dark, imagine yourself lying beneath this network. You can almost feel the whispers beneath the soil. Tiny threads stretching in every direction, glowing faintly with life. Each connection a pulse of energy, each signal a story of survival. If you could translate these vibrations, what might they say? Perhaps something like, "We are here, we are together, we remember." And perhaps that's the same message your body whispers as you drift toward sleep, that even in stillness, even in rest, connection continues. The mystery deepens when we consider how plants might choose to communicate, how they send signals not just chemically, but perhaps even electrically. Some scientists have found voltage changes in trees when they are injured or touched. These signals travel at speeds comparable to nerve impulses in animals, and when combined with hormonal responses, it forms something that looks eerily similar to what we might call feeling. So could it be that trees have a kind of sensory awareness? Not emotion in the way we feel it, but something more primal, a slow consciousness that experiences time differently, a rhythm that pulses once every hour instead of every heartbeat, a perception too vast, too patient for human senses to grasp when you lie in bed tonight. Think of the trees not as silent watchers, but as fellow dreamers, each leaf, each root, each fiber participating in a slow, ancient dance of communication. A dance that has been going on since before humans learned to speak, and will continue long after we are gone. The forest is not a collection of trees, it's a conversation that never ends. And in that realization, there's something deeply comforting. Because if even trees care for one another in darkness, then perhaps the universe itself is wired for compassion. Now, take one last deep breath. The air is thick with the scent of moss and moonlight. You hear the whisper of branches swaying in rhythm with your breath. The forest around you glows softly, like a living constellation beneath the earth. And just as the trees rest between pulses of energy, you too may rest now, because somewhere, unseen but certain, life is still speaking, and it's speaking softly. Just for you, drift gently now, for in the next part of our journey, we'll travel deeper into the hidden senses of plants, where light becomes language and silence becomes song. Let's continue our exploration, slowly, quietly, as the night deepens and the forest dreams.